to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a debut author and the author of the book The Jolt. No other than Miss Kristin Massey.
Hello.
Welcome, Miss Christine on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, I grew up on the North Shore of Chicago, and I'm a Midwest girl at heart, but I wanted to break out into the whole world and have many, many adventures. I call myself the female Odysseus, and I went out
I
into the world on my
like
little
that.
ship. And I battled with monsters, and I had beautiful sights on islands, and I have just had an amazing life. And the whole point of writing the book is I want everyone to do that and to live life to the fullest and just make sure, we only go around once. I won't use the term YOLO because it's people make fun of that now, but there's a truth to that. And we have a
Yes.
certain amount of time. And, there's one thing about sitting in front of your computer or sitting in front of the TV, and there's a whole world out there and it's waiting for you and it wants you to put your imprint onto it because you can change things just by being you. You don't have to be anything special because you're already special. But if you skill stitch, which I talk about in the joke, you can make yourself even more special.
Special indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. Miss Christine. The book grew out of your decision to share what you could offer people seeking their own unique path. What made you decide to turn your life experiences into a self help memoir, and how did you choose which stories to include?
I was, Daniel, I was writing a book of short stories. I'm an English lit major, and I took so many detours in life that it took me into several decades into my life before I decided to actually start writing. And as I was writing fiction, I realized I have a life that's actually stranger than fiction. And I think what I'll do first is write my memoir and have it mean something to other people. I'm not a movie star or a famous actress or anything. I'm just
Yes.
me. And I think that the
Yes.
things I've done can help other people do more incredible things with their life. And the book came to me almost fully formed, and it said, you have to put this out there for others to find their own unique path by reading about how you forged yours.
You introduce innovative concept called skill stitching, blending our diverse skills into a powerful tapestry. How do you define skilled stitching, and what is the first step someone who can take practice in their own life?
The first step, I believe, in skill stitching is to write down things that you're already good at and then add something that you have always wanted to try, but you haven't added it yet. Look at your list and decide how blending those skills and talents together could be useful to somebody else, could help someone else in their journey, because your net worth will always rise if you offer service to other people. You bring them with you and you offer value to others in the world. You will always be able to make money and always be able to have income, because if we serve others, we ultimately serve ourselves by default. And I think that everyone has something they've always wanted to try, but they've either been fearful or they've had other responsibilities. And it's time. Time is marching on. Grab that thing that you've always wanted to do it and add it to what you're already pretty good at, what you do in your daily life, what people know about you, what people pay you for. And you'd be surprised by just adding one or two things and stitching them together. All of a sudden, it becomes your personal superpower.
Personal superpower. I like that, Miss Christine. Everybody have their own superpower for sure. The book recounts your time forming bands like Plectrium and Sirens, and
That's
high
right.
and lows of the music industry, including the losing of record deal. What those experiences teach you about resilience and reinvention?
Well, I always knew that I would go into music first because that was my tallest passion. We all have different levels of passions. And that one was so tall when I was a young teen that I had no choice but to essentially drop out of college and go to Chicago, and I felt life was marching on and I needed to start my band. And it's a good thing because I believe in the 5-year plan. You're most likely not going to do anything amazing in under 5 years. It can happen. You know that Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours. Mine is the 5-year plan. And I looked at my watch, so to speak, on my life. My clock was ticking, and I realized if I keep going to college, I won't have enough time to be a young person still when my band takes off. And sure enough, Daniel, 5 years later, after I dropped out of my junior year of college, I was in a band that was signed to a major label. It took me 5 years. And the only thing I can say about it is I wanted it so badly that I think I rushed it a little bit. I got some very lucky breaks. And I tell people that sometimes your dreams come to you a little too early, or sometimes they're not exactly what you hoped for. And I was a great songwriter, but I wasn't the front person I needed to be yet. And I ended up losing the record deal, not because of the music, but because I didn't take the stage like Mick Jagger. Because I had
Mm.
shared the stage with my sisters for many years and we shared responsibilities. And when I struck out on my own, I had a little ways to go. Now, that wasn't the end of the world, but it was definitely a tough time for me. I had to go back to waiting tables, and I thought, oh my God, my whole life is over. And you start to take what would you like, fries with that, as opposed to like being the star on stage? It's a big transition, but I did it with grace. And as I tell everyone, that is not the end. If you fail, if you falter, even it seems like the end of the world, there's always a way to reinvent yourself, look at things from different angles. And I ended up meeting a fellow server at that restaurant who I formed a band with and got signed again to Atlantic Records. So my positive attitude put me back on track to be a famous singer.
Yes, don't lose hope, people, because hope is, I guess, only on the corner. So, Miss Christine, after music, you move into a culinary world, creating healthy recipes and contributing to health-focused projects. What prompted that shift, and how did you transfer skills from music to food?
That's a great question. I've just listened to Quincy Jones' biography, and he feels the same way that I do. May he rest in peace. Such a talented musician. He says in his book that he learned that music and food are very similar. He called the lemon the piccolo in the orchestra, the bright little thing, and he called the main dish the bass. And I completely agree with him because as I transferred out of music, I was in 3, 4 bands and I just really ran it to the end. I realized that I'm going to use this. Even Cyndi Lauper, our favorite singer of Time After Time, says that music and food and recipes all intertwine how you write a song, how you create a great dish. You've got to make people happy. They have to enjoy it. There has to be a beginning, middle, and an end, and you have to keep them wanting more. So I
Yes.
thought back to all my grandmother's recipes and I watched something called the Food Network and I taught myself how to cook. And that led to all sorts of opportunities. I wrote for my boyfriend's book. He was a nutritionist and a health expert, and I put recipes in his books. And then I spun off into writing for women's health and fitness magazines, fresh new ideas and ingredients. And it was just such a perfect and easy transition because I was always so open minded and optimistic. And one thing always has led to another for me.
Optimistic indeed. Miss Christine, reviewers note that you discuss mentorship and goal setting alongside your career changes. Who were some of the key mentors in your journey, and what advice did they give that still resonates?
My grandmothers were the beginning, showing me how to cook at such a young age, and they were just such wonderful people, all of them completely different. As you know, grandmothers are from two different parents, and they can be very, very different people. But I love them all, and they taught me to be very present and good to other people, and not to try to shine too much. Just let other people decide that for you. Let them decide you're special. You can feel good about yourself, but let others decide whether or not you're a special person. Just, I have a quote in the book: if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, and that is Rudyard Kipling. We're never super great and we're never terrible. We're people trying to get through life, and we shouldn't let our egos get out of control, but we also shouldn't get depressed because we are true snowflakes, one of a kind people. I don't mean it in the bad way, one of a kind gems. And as long as you go through the world believing that about yourself, you will make other people feel good and they'll make you feel good in the feedback they give you. Those are some of my most famous and fondest ways to think about life.
Thank you for sharing for that, Miss Christine. Truly, truly empowering. Your story emphasizes staying open to new opportunities and pushing boundaries. How do you maintain a learning mindset when stepping into unfamiliar fields?
Well, as I told you about food and music, there you pivot in. You know, someone on a basketball court pivots. They don't take their foot off the floor of the basketball court. They pivot one leg forward at a time, unless they're going to get called for traveling. And I feel that what you've done recently can help you in your next endeavor. If you're creative and if you're smart about it, you can see how what you've learned up until this point in your life can be valuable in your next pursuit. Sometimes it feels unrelated, but once you get going, you'll see that everything you've done up until this point has helped you become a more interesting person, a more fun person to be around, a smarter person, and most importantly, a braver person. Because when you're brave in this world, you help more people and you have a whole lot more fun.
Definitely have fun, people, and you hope readers will embrace change and pursue their interests by continuously adapting and evolving. What practices help people become more comfortable with change and experimentation?
Well, we have something in our brain called the anterior mid cingulate. It's a little part in our brain that's a muscle that needs to be, just like you go into the gym and you lift weights and you pump iron. Your brain needs to have its muscles pumped, believe it or not. And this little part of your brain will get stronger and more resilient the more you use it. Now, people say do crossword puzzles, blah, blah, blah. No, this is something that you have to learn a new instrument. You have to challenge yourself in a way you have never done before. I tell people, scare yourself a little. Don't do something terribly dangerous, but don't stick to your old routine over and over and over. Your brain will atrophy. You need to challenge it in any way you can. Do something that you go, oh, I don't know if that's for me. That's too scary. And I don't mean jumping out of an airplane, Daniel. I mean getting on stage, doing a comedy routine, or doing something at work, speaking up at the board meeting that you usually just let everyone talk. Do something that for you is really scary, because that little part of your brain, the anterior mid cingulate, the AMCC, loves you for it. And next time a challenge comes around, you'll be that much more likely to take the challenge and have it turn out well and be better at it and enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Again, Miss Christine. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. The review highlights your honest and conversational writing style with humor and openness. How did you cultivate that voice, and why was authenticity important in conveying your lessons?
Thank you. Well, as I told you the quote before, triumph and disaster. I'm somewhere in between those two at all points, and I think that all my missteps are kind of funny in retrospect. Like not everything's funny in retrospect, but a lot of the things we do wrong, if you can laugh at it a couple years later, you're ahead of the game. And since I had 4 years on the comedy circuit, believe me, humor is extremely important to me, Daniel. I just like, if I can see the funny side or the light side of something, I'll do it. I'm a very serious person when it comes to helping people, but everything else I'm willing to laugh at and enjoy.
Miss Christine, as an author, as a musician, a foodie, what are your short term and long term goals?
Thank you for asking. I'm going to spin off the food section of the Jote into something called Fooditude, the Jote Fooditude. Readers of the book will see recipes woven, like skill stitched, woven throughout the book that they can all enjoy. And I'm going to turn that into its own manual. It might not be a huge book, but you will be able to get it more into jote fooditude with the healthy things we're told by experts now that are better for us than we thought they were, or not as the things that are not as good as we thought. I'm going to leave those off the menu and just focus on things that are really, really good for us as far as science tells us right now. And there are chocolate chip cookies in there. It's not like you have to be crazy. There's steak and hamburger and eggs and omelets. It's really delicious, delicious food, but it's good for your brain and it's good for you. And it might get us off all these weight loss drugs.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Christine, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you, of course?
Well, of course, I would tell them to read the jote. And then after you're
Yes.
finished, close it after page 252 in the paperback, and I don't know how long it is on ebook. But after you're done, what I'm told by people who have read the book is that they felt very inspired to go on. And it's not a temporary feeling, because you can always go back and read a chapter or two and give yourself an infusion of optimism and go forward and find your next goal. You be the female or the male Odysseus and go on your journey, because it's waiting for you. Your path is waiting for you.
I want to be audacious too, Miss Christine, and thank you for that advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Well, I love anything by Henry James and Marcel Proust. Those are old, old books, but I just love those authors so much. They're my Bibles. So as far as current books, I like Jonathan Franzen. I think he's wonderful. I'm waiting for his next book, and I'm pretty much an old school girl. If it what didn't get written in the 1800s or earlier, it's not really for me. That's nothing to say that there aren't amazing authors now, but it's just what
Yes.
I resonate with.
Thank you for that recommended book. Miss Christine, what would you say to someone who has invested years in one field but feels drawn to explore to explore something entirely different? How can they leverage their existing expertise while branching out?
Yes, well, if you've gone past the 5-year plan and you feel that you're stuck in a rut, it is time to get on a new track. And as I told you earlier in the conversation, you can use what you've learned in a new way and do something that seems completely different, but you haven't wasted your time at anything you've done. I tell people that, during the pandemic, we were asked to do all sorts of things in our home office. We had to wear every single hat in there and do things from higher ups' requests or bosses' requests that we had no right to be asked, really. But guess what? We went to the skills gym and we pumped our muscles, not just our brains, but our skills muscles. And we are ready to branch out because we're better than we think we are in 2025. And it's time to take that leap.
Yes, take that leap, people. Spread your wings and fly. For readers considering entrepreneurship, how can skills teaching help them to create a unique offerings or adapt to market changes?
There's a whole chapter in the book about entrepreneurship. And I tell people that if you're going to come up with a product, there's all sorts of ways to be an entrepreneur. But if you're going to launch a product, make sure it's something people are interested in. Daniel, I did something called the Tootsie Towel that could dry your feet really easily with the rest of your body after you get out of the shower. And I love it. But you have to make sure there's other people who are interested in it. And I found I was an audience of one. I was the only customer. So make sure, do a little don't worry about someone stealing your idea. That's your biggest fear, your least fear. What you want to do is test the waters and find out if your big idea is something other people could get excited about.
Yes, excited about for sure. Across music and culinary fields, collaboration is crucial. How did you build a supportive communities in its industry? And what can readers learn about networking when pivoting careers?
Yes, well, the world of music has bad guys, good guys, wonderful people. It's like the Wild West. You find your people that you relate to. If you're not relating with people, your music isn't going to be anything that anyone else is interested. There's also a chapter in the book that I quote from the gentleman who wrote the book Awe. And he says, when we hear music, live music, we tend to move with the sound of it. The whole audience moves as one person. That's why music is so good for building friendships and building lasting relationships. I find that anything musical is, because I told you that's my first love and that's how I started out. I found that to be an amazing field to go into. But there's something about just listening to music when you're working out. You don't have to be a musician. It can move you in so many ways. And I think that there are many relationships. Let's face it, it's all about relationships. It's a hard job market out there. And if you don't know someone that can give you a leg up, good luck. Go on LinkedIn and try to get hired without knowing anybody. It's not that easy. It's tough out there. So make relationships, leave little notes for people, not just because they can do something for you, but be genuine in it. And the more people you know, and the more people know that you care about them, you're going to get a job opportunity one way or another that you didn't think you had coming. I found that in voiceover. I met someone who called me 3 years later and said, "I've got a big job opportunity and I thought of you." That's what you want people to do for you. Think of you when they see a job opportunity that they think you'd be a match for.
Miss Christine, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in fourth season, and my movie 101 review and music 101 as well as fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Christine, you hint at returning to your first love of writing short stories. What new projects or fields are you excited to explore next? And how will skill stitching continue to guide your path?
As I mentioned, my boyfriend, who is now my husband, who I met through skill stitching, but that's for another episode. It's a long story.
Yes, love
He and
letters.
I, that's right, exactly. Very good. He and I are going to pair up now because before I wasn't an author, Danielle, and I don't know that I warranted being I'm his partner in life, but now we can be co-writers going forward because I stand on my own now. So I'm very proud to be an author that I can now co-author with my husband a new book. And we'll let you know and probably show up on one of your other podcasts.
Please do come over and let's talk about it on love letters, on book 101 review, and abstract essay as well. Miss Christina Massey, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, and for sure your book?
Well, please visit me at thejotebook.com. I'd love to see you there and hear any comments you have.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Christina Macy because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering books like this to come, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Christine, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
More to come, people. See you soon.